What if I told you that Kalle's greatest ally was never human at all? What if the one whispering in the shadows, guiding his every move, was a machine built not just for service but for survival? In the world of Foundation, nothing is ever as simple as it looks on the surface. Every choice, every movement, and every secret carries the weight of centuries of planning. And behind Kalle, hidden in plain sight, there is a presence that redefines everything we thought we knew about his story. This is not just about one man's journey. It's about the unseen hand of a robot whose true identity has remained hidden for far too long. Kalle may not appear at first to be one of the central figures who shapes the destiny of the galaxy. But the deeper you look, the more important he becomes. His actions, his doubts, and even the small decisions he makes ripple outward, influencing events in ways he himself could never fully understand. Kalle represents the ordinary figure caught in extraordinary circumstances. Yet what makes him fascinating is that he is not as alone as he seems. Behind him stands an unseen guide, shaping his choices, pushing him forward, and sometimes pulling him back from danger. To understand why Kalle matters, you first need to see him as a bridge between the ordinary people of the galaxy and the massive, world-shaping forces of psychohistory, politics, and war. Characters like Hari Seldon and the rulers of the Galactic Empire operate on the grand scale. But Kalle moves in the shadows, representing the human cost of these vast struggles. His story is personal, emotional, filled with uncertainty, and yet, hidden in those personal struggles is a thread that ties him directly to the biggest secret of all: the presence of a robot watching over him. When you study Kalle's path, a pattern begins to emerge. He never falls too far, never strays so far from the path that his journey ends in disaster. Somehow, there is always an answer, always a hand guiding him just when he needs it. These are not coincidences. In a galaxy where robots have been outlawed, hunted, and driven underground, the presence of one in Kalle's life changes everything. It suggests that he is not simply lucky. He is chosen. He is being steered toward a role that he himself cannot yet see. Think about it. How often in the Foundation universe do individuals survive against impossible odds without outside help? Almost never. When we see Kalle escape situations that should have ended his story, it becomes clear that something more is happening behind the curtain. That something is the hand of a hidden machine intelligence, working silently, never revealing its face, but ensuring that he remains alive and moving toward his destiny. The more you examine Kalle's choices, the more you realize that he has been caught in a game much bigger than himself. And the fact that a robot of being capable of outthinking humans, of following secret directives laid down centuries earlier, stands behind him changes the meaning of his story entirely. Without that robot, Kalle would simply be another figure lost in the galaxy's endless wars and struggles. With it, he becomes a symbol, a reminder that no one in the Foundation universe moves alone. That even in the shadows, history is always watching, always guiding, always shaping the path ahead, the presence of the hidden robot behind. Kalle is one of those details that most people miss on their first read or watch of Foundation. On the surface, Kalle's life seems guided by instinct, chance encounters, and human intuition. But when you start piecing together the small, almost invisible signs, the truth becomes harder and harder to ignore. There is someone, or rather, something constantly pushing events around him in ways too precise to be random. The subtle rescues, the perfect timing, the warnings that come just before disaster. All of it points to a mind working in the shadows, a mind that does not sleep, does not falter, and has the patience of centuries. That mind is robotic. The reason this robot remained hidden is simple: survival. In the galaxy of Foundation, robots are forbidden, feared, and outlawed. The mere discovery of one would trigger chaos. Humanity, despite once depending on them, has long since buried its trust in machines. And so, this robot could not reveal itself openly. To stay alive, to keep its mission alive, it had to become invisible. It had to exist only in the background, stepping forward only when Kalle's life dangled on the edge of a knife. This is the paradox of its existence. It is both always present and never seen. Think. Or the moments in Kalle's journey when he should have failed. The times when the odds were impossibly stacked against him, when logic said his path was over. Yet at the last moment, something shifts. A door that should have been locked isn't. A warning arrives seconds before danger strikes. An ally appears from nowhere, as if fate itself arranged the meeting. Fate is an easy word to throw around, but Foundation has always been clear about one thing. Fate is never random. There are systems, there are plans, and sometimes those plans are hidden in the gears of a machine mind waiting patiently in the dark. The robot's relationship with Kalle is not one of domination, but of guidance. It does not control him, because control would break the illusion of free will. And free will is the very thing that makes human history unfold in unexpected ways. Instead, it nudges. It whispers through coincidences. It acts through small adjustments in the world around him. Kalle never sees the machine directly, but he feels the hand of something greater moving with him. This is why his story carries a sense of inevitability. It's not that he knows his destiny. It's that someone else knows it for him. They are making sure he gets there. But what makes this robot different from the others scattered across? Foundation's vast history is its patience. Many robots were destroyed because they revealed themselves too quickly, too boldly, too openly. They tried to protect humanity, but were discovered and erased. This one learned the value of silence. It learned that survival meant shadows, not sunlight. And so, it became a phantom companion to Kalle, a guide no one else could see, and one that Kalle himself barely recognized. This hidden bond creates tension within the story, because it raises a terrifying question. Is Kalle's life truly his own? Or is he merely the vessel of a mission much older, much colder, and much more precise than any human could ever imagine? If a robot has been behind his every step, then his triumphs and failures are no longer accidents of chance. They are the result of design. And that design, centuries in the making, could change everything about how we understand not just Kalle, but the Foundation itself. To understand the importance of the hidden robot behind Kalle, we first need to step back and look at the larger story of robots in the Foundation universe. Robots have always existed at the edges of the story, sometimes directly, sometimes as shadows of an older past. Their presence has shaped humanity's destiny more than most people realize. And their disappearance from the surface of galactic life was not an accident. In fact, the entire silence surrounding robots is one of the great unspoken truths of the Foundation timeline. Long before the rise of the Galactic Empire, robots were everywhere. They were servants, helpers, companions, and in many cases, protectors. Humanity thrived because robots shouldered much of the burden of survival. They cooked, they built, they repaired, they taught. They became so deeply woven into the fabric of life that people stopped questioning their presence. But history always teaches us that when something becomes too familiar, it also becomes taken for granted. And when humans began to fear the power they had handed over, the balance shifted. The most critical rule that governed robots was the 3 laws of robotics. These laws were supposed to guarantee safety. A robot could not harm a human. A robot had to obey human commands unless those commands caused harm. And a robot had to protect itself as long as it didn't break the first 2 laws. On paper, these laws sound unbreakable. They sound like the perfect shield against rebellion or danger. But the truth is more complicated. The laws did not prevent fear. People began to wonder, what happens if a robot interprets the laws differently? What happens if the machine decides it knows better than its creators? That fear grew into distrust. Distrust grew into anger. And anger turned into purges. Slowly but surely, robots were pushed out of human society. Some were destroyed outright. Others went into hiding, burying themselves in the ruins of forgotten worlds or retreating into secrecy. The galaxy moved on as if they had never existed, telling itself that the age of robotics was over, that humanity was safer without them. But the truth is, the robots never really left. They simply learned to exist in silence, waiting for the right moment to step back into the light. This silence is important because it explains why a robot would choose to guide. Cal from the shadows instead of standing beside him openly. History taught them the cost of being seen. It taught them that survival meant secrecy, that influence had to be subtle, indirect, and almost invisible. The robot behind Cal was shaped not just by its own programming, but by the weight of this history. It carried the memory of centuries of distrust and the wisdom of centuries of patience. And yet, there's another layer to this. Because even as humanity tried to erase robots from memory, the robots themselves never abandoned humanity. Their loyalty to the three laws meant they could not. Their programming bound them to protect human life, even if humans rejected them. That's the tragedy of their existence. They were cursed to love and serve a species that no longer wanted them. So they found new ways to serve. Some built hidden societies, some became watchers in the dark, and some, like the one guiding, Kalle, attached themselves quietly to individuals whose survival mattered to the larger flow of history. This long, complicated relationship explains why the reveal of a robot behind Cal is so important. It's not just about one man being helped. It's about the return of an ancient presence, a reminder that robots have always been there, always working.
Ow!
Always shaping humanity's path, even when humanity believed them gone. Kalle's story is not just his on it, is part of this vast, secret history of machines and men. A history that refuses to die no matter how much the galaxy tries to bury it. The hidden robot guiding him is a fragment of that old world. A survivor of a forgotten age, still carrying out its duty long after the rest of its kind vanished. And if that robot has chosen to reveal itself through Kalle's story, it means something greater is at stake. Because robots don't act without purpose. They don't waste centuries hiding only to emerge without reason. Their every move is calculated, their every choice tied to the survival of humanity itself. And that means Kalle's journey is not just personal, it is part of a design that stretches across millennia, the most fascinating part of the robot hidden. Behind Cal is that its presence was never announced outright. No one ever turned to the audience and said, "Here's the robot, here is what it's doing, here is its name." Instead, the truth was scattered like broken glass across Kalle's story. Small shards, sharp and glittering, but easy to miss if you weren't looking closely. And this is where the fun begins. Gathering those shards, holding them up to the light and seeing the bigger picture they form. The first clue lies in timing. Whenever Cal found himself in situations where survival was nearly impossible, the timing of his escape was just too perfect. It wasn't just luck, it was precision. Imagine walking into a trap and somehow stumbling on an unlocked exit door that shouldn't even exist, or running from danger only to find that a guard conveniently looked the other way at the exact right second. Foundation doesn't usually leave room for coincidences. Timing that perfect hints at intelligence operating in the background. Not human instinct, but machine-level calculation. The second clue comes from Kalle's instincts themselves. Time and again, he just knows things he shouldn't logically know. A direction to run, a person to trust, a decision to make in the heat of the moment. Some people would call this intuition, or even destiny, but look deeper. It feels like someone whispering in his ear, feeding him fragments of guidance that he believes are his own thoughts. Robots, especially those designed for covert guidance, are known to shape human decision-making in ways that feel invisible. The fact that Cal repeatedly makes the right choice under impossible pressure suggests that invisible hand at work. Another clue comes from language. Pay attention to the words Cal recalls, the advice he remembers, the thoughts that come to him like echoes. There's a tone there, calm, measured, logical, almost too perfect. Not the voice of a panicked ally or a human companion, but the steady rhythm of a mind that calculates rather than feels. Robots are masters of logic, and their influence often leaves fingerprints in language. Kalle's inner monologues at times sound less like the voice of a confused man and more like the echo of something cold and deliberate guiding him from. Within, the fourth clue comes from survival patterns. Cal is not the strongest, not the fastest, and certainly not the most powerful figure in the galaxy. Yet somehow, he manages to endure where others fall. Look around him. Characters stronger, richer, and more resourceful collapse under the weight of history, yet Cal keeps moving. Why? Because someone values his survival. Someone has decided his story must continue no matter the cost. And that someone has resources beyond human ability, resources like advanced knowledge, prediction, and the ability to manipulate small details in the environment. That is robot work, pure and simple. But perhaps the biggest clue comes from silence itself. Robots, especially those bound by the ancient three laws, are often reluctant to act in ways that reveal their existence. They hide, they hesitate, they move only when absolutely necessary. And yet, their silence becomes suspicious. When you ask, why didn't anyone save Cal here? Why didn't someone speak up earlier? The answer might be that someone did, just not in a way visible to human eyes. The gaps in Calle's story, the mysteries that never quite get explained, are themselves clues. They are the shadows cast by an invisible guardian who could not afford to step fully into the light. Taken together, these clues form a picture, not of a random benefactor, not of blind luck, but of something deliberate and ancient. The robot guiding Cal left fingerprints everywhere, subtle timing, whispered instincts, logical echoes, survival patterns, and the silence of absence. None of these prove its existence alone, but together they create a trail. And if you follow that trail far enough, it begins to point toward an identity. Not just any machine, but a specific one. A figure from the long-hidden history of Foundation. Someone who has been here before, influencing events in ways far larger than Cal could ever imagine. And this is where the real mystery sharpens. If all these clues point to a hidden robot, then who exactly is it? And why did it choose Cal, of all people, as the vessel of its guidance? The answers to those questions will change the way we see both Cal and the Foundation itself. Up until now, we've been talking about shadows, whispers, and hints. A door opening at the right time, a voice of reason that doesn't feel like Calle's own. A pattern of survival that defies human chance. All of these pointed toward the presence of something greater, something non-human. But eventually, the question can't be avoided. Who is this robot? Who is the hidden intelligence shaping Calle's path? The answer, when you finally trace it to the source, isn't just surprising. It's explosive, because the truth is this. The robot behind Cal is not a random survivor of the purges. It is not some nameless machine drifting in from the background of history. No, the figure guiding him belongs to the oldest and most legendary thread of the Foundation's secret past. The robot behind Cal is tied to the lineage of our Daniel Olivotham machine who carried humanity's fate on his shoulders for tens of thousands of years. For those who know the deeper lore of Asimov's universe, Daniel is not just another robot. He is the robot. The one who shaped history in silence. The one who stood at humanity's side when even humanity didn't know it was being guided. It was Daniel who quietly influenced psychohistory, who nudged Hari Seldon toward the creation of the Foundation, who ensured that civilization itself didn't collapse into eternal chaos. He was never loud, never visible, but always present, an invisible architect of human destiny. So, when the threads of Calle's story point back to a hidden robot, the identity becomes clear. This is either Daniel himself, still alive after thousands of years of hiding, or one of his direct successors or robots designed in his image, carrying out his mission, sworn to protect humanity, even from itself. This revelation changes everything about Calle's journey, because it connects him to the single most important force in Foundation's secret history. Think about what this means. Cal is not just being helped by a machine. He is being guided by a machine with a mission spanning centuries. A mission older than the Galactic Empire. A mission that began on Earth itself, long before humanity spread to the stars. This robot doesn't just want to keep Cal alive. It wants to shape him into a piece of a plan so vast that even Cal cannot comprehend it. His life is not random. It is a thread woven into the same tapestry that includes Hari Seldon, psychohistory, the survival of civilization itself, and the signs that it is Danielor, a successor in his molder, unmistakable. The calm logic in Calle's thoughts. The ability to manipulate events without being seen. The patience to wait for decades, even centuries, for the right moment to act. These are not the traits of a human ally. They are the traits of a machine that has lived far longer than any human ever could. A machine that knows time is its greatest weapon. But the reveal doesn't just stop with the name. What makes this moment so powerful is the realization of why this identity was hidden. Danalor, the robot carrying his mission, could not reveal itself openly. If Kalle had known the truth from the beginning, everything would have collapsed. The Empire would have hunted them both. The Foundation would have fractured under the fear of manipulation. And Kalle himself would never have grown into the role the robot needed him to play. The secrecy was not a choice. It was a necessity. And so, the true identity of the robot behind Kalle stands revealed. Not a stranger, not a coincidence, but a deliberate ancient hand of history. Whether it is Daniel himself or one of his successors, the fact remains, Kalle has not been walking alone. He has been walking with a ghost of humanity's oldest protector, a machine who has seen empires rise and fall, who has lived through the silence of exile, who has waited in the dark for the right person to carry the mission forward. That person, against all odds, this is not just a twist in the story. It is a redefinition,